up? What up? What up? It is another day of MTEs and it's college basketball time. 11 a.m. We got two games to start us off. Both are double-digit favorites. Both are interesting spots. And hold on 1 second. All right, that was a alarm, making sure that I was doing the stream at this time. It's pretty disappointing that you don't get a little more support at 10:20 in the morning, but I'm not going to bitch about it. Just going to do what I do and then get the fuck out of here. All right, starting with the 11 a.m. games. Listen, Toledo, they should on paper be able to win this game by 20 points. The question is going to be, how is UMKC going to be able to stop them? Is UMKC going to be able to limit them the way that they were able to limit LSU? I personally don't think so, because LSU is a lot of self-centered basketball. And I think that with Toledo, you first off have multiple guys that can take over from different spots on the floor. You have running big men. You have Ray J. Dennis, who hits his free throws. For undersized front court, this team still does a really good job of matching up. UMKC, maybe it's just I have no respect for them as a program right now, but I just don't see it. So I have to keep on betting against them. I'm on Toledo from the opener. At 18, it's not really my favorite number anymore, but I do think and originally wrote down that this is a 20-point win for Toledo if they come out gunning. Now, the total, on the other hand, I'm trying to stay away from those today just because I think that it's a lot of public perception that's moving it, recency bias, and those are totals that really are a little more difficult for me at least to figure out. Obviously, a smarter person has a formula down to decipher these, but I'm just not that smart. That's why I changed my name from Maxwell Smart to Dart Thrower, because at the end of the day, I feel like this is just literally dart throwing, and if you're good at throwing darts, you're gonna make money. So I've been lucky enough to be successful throwing fucking darts. All right. So for that game with the total, I saw it as high as 154.5 last night. Seeing it at 149.5 right now on one of my main books is just it just gives me trepidation. I want to take that over, but can UMKC do their part? That's the biggest question. So for me, I like Toledo in the game. I would lean towards the over now that the numbers move 5 points. And even though it's an 11 a.m. start, I still think that Toledo's going to score a bunch of points. The question is, what is UMKC going to do? So we'll find out in about fucking 40 minutes. All right, the other 11 a.m. game, if I can find it on my sheet here, is Illinois State and LSU. Yeah, this is not really an interesting game. I'm going to degenerate bet it just because it's going to be on and I'm going to want to. I just won't be able to stop myself. But Illinois State, if they're going to stand up in this game, this is a game that they have to figure out some better balance scoring and get that three-point shot going. Because against LSU, you really have to either get to the free throw line, limit your turnovers, and force them into turnovers to really take them out of their element. I'm not sure that Illinois State can do that. Now, Illinois State's going up against an LSU team that obviously we have to look more at like a Murray State team. Yes, they finally got back into winning your spread shape with that New Orleans win last time out. But I remember the Arkansas State game. I remember the UMKC game. And when you get down early, it leaves a stain in my memory. My biggest issue right now is what you're getting from other guys in the lineup that you're expecting bigger things. KJ Williams is doing okay. I expect him to get to the free throw line more, and that's just not happening right now. So my big thing for him is, the percentages are great. His usage is good. but he needs to give more. And when I look at the guy who needs to give more and not really deserving his minutes on a defensive or rebounding perspective is Jalen Reed, the 6'10 freshman. Like, everybody loves a tall person. They're good for getting shit up off the top shelf. But this is a kid that, once again, I'm expecting bigger things, and I do think it's going to take a little more time for him to adapt. Now, I am disappointed to not see more of Kendall Coleman and only seeing like 10, 15 minutes in the game. I think that he could be more of an asset to this team, but I'm not the coach. So Matt McMahon has to make those decisions. But I'll tell you one thing. If Trey Hannibal keeps on getting 20-plus minutes a game, that's going to piss me off, because not hitting free throws, not hitting threes, not hitting from the field, it's like, what the fuck is he there for then? He's not there for defense. We got other guards that you could freaking put in. So Cam Hayes is just sitting around waiting for his time. But in this game, I think that it's dangerous to take LSU, especially on a neutral court at 11 a.m. game. I don't like the character of this team. I know that's weird to say, but I've listened to their player interviews, and I'm just not really enthusiastic about what's going on up here. So I'll leave it like that. Illinois State, as a degenerate bet, is the one that I'm going to play. I wish that I got the 15.5 last night, but at 14 or 14.5, it's still worth it to me, at least for a half unit play. All right, so we'll go now to – I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do this. I'm not going to talk about any of the added board games, so I'll just let you know there. So Bryant, Albany, they may be playing at 12. I'm not talking about them. I will talk about Northern Iowa, San Francisco. First off, I think with Northern Iowa, this is definitely not the same quality that we're used to seeing with these Ben Jacobson teams. And plain and simply, it's because of how they perform from the three-point line, how they've performed shooting by the rim. Like, don't get me wrong, with Nate Heisey and Bowen Bourne, you should be able to get enough shots at the rim and enough three-point opportunities. Cole Henry's done a great job, in my opinion, being able to take over for Austin Fife, who we expected to be there, but he's just not getting the minutes. I'm seeing this team play very small, and I don't think that's what's going to do any good against this San Francisco team. I think it's a bad matchup. I understand why the line has gone from 3 to 7. It's not at the point now where I'm going to be like, oh, let's fucking take San Francisco. But be aware, it is a 12:30 Eastern game, so it is basically a 9:30 game for San Fran. So at 7 points, we may be getting a little out of hand, especially on a neutral court. And with the total going up, I understand that, but with a team, with one of the teams shooting 13% from the three-point line, I don't see why that number's going up. It's gone up 3 points from 145 to 148. So that makes no sense to me. If anything, this San Francisco team is going to be lower scoring this year than they were last year. I think that even with Griffithson in there, three-point shooting is not going to be good, but rim defense and attacking the rim is what they're going to do best. I think that this is an under game, personally. I think that this is a under 148. Fade that fucking line movement. And unless Northern Iowa can really freaking take away some of the guard play and guard penetration that you're going to get from San Francisco, or if San Francisco just wants to fucking put someone in the low block and throw it down for them, let them back them up. Don't forget, Tony Rokic is on this team, the dude from UC San Diego. He was fucking bomb there. So I think that this is a bad matchup on paper, personnel-wise, for Northern Iowa, but the timing and the line where it is makes me hesitant. I think that the under is the best play in this game at under 148 and waiting until right before the game starts to bet that total. I haven't bet it yet, but that's definitely a total that I'm looking at. So give me fucking Tony Rokic playing fucking big minutes today. Zane Meeks getting some fucking meat on the bone. San Francisco's not shooting the three any better, but they do get to the free throw line a shit ton. And that does play a factor. So when you can score with the clock stopped, I take note of that. All right, let's talk a little Buffalo George Mason. Now, this could be very similar to what we've been seeing with some of these other teams where the legs just aren't there, but we are seeing this line go up and down. It was at 146.5, got as low as 144.5. Now it's going up a little bit to 145. I think that with this game, I'm just going to fucking plug my nose and take the under. I'm taking a Buffalo team that hasn't shown an ability to fucking hit the three, as we've been used to seeing Jim Whitesell teams being able to do. The offensive rebounding is not there. They're turning the ball over in the half court. They're on a 4-game losing streak, and they should have won probably 2 of those games. They could have won the Drake game, but they coughed it up, and they just were never in it against Howard. So I just think that this Buffalo team is not as good as I've been led to believe. And without Cy Chapman, it's making a big difference offensively. So this is a game where I'm not going to be betting it from a side perspective. I'll try and just find something live to bet on it. But if you were to ask me, I lean to George Mason because they're a better group, personnel-wise, coaching-wise. Just they've had some rough performances also. And that's pretty much has to do with their free throw shooting. When you can't lock down games and you end up blowing them, like you blew the Belmont game because of your free throw shooting, that's a big fucking problem. So I'm very hesitant to take George Mason full game when you got to beat somebody by more than 2 3-point shots. That's how I look at it. So, as far as personnel-wise, Devontae Gaines, waiting for him to bust out, taking a lot of threes, just not making them. So, eventually those things are going to start dropping, and it's going to help George Mason's bottom line because they're a good 3-point shooting team. The free throw shooting from Josh Adoro is literally taking them out. They may have to remove him from games or in the last couple minutes because if I'm a coach, I'm fouling him and I'm putting him on the line. I'll take the chance that he goes 1 for 2 or misses a first one on a 1-and-1. So that's just me. All right, Western Kentucky and Akron. Listen, Western Kentucky has free throw shooting issues also. I think it's very dangerous taking them on spreads in a game that you anticipate to be tight. But their defense is just so good. That's what I see them being. They're just such a good, compact defense. They can pressure you. They can full court. They can run with you. They can really take you out of your element. Now, the one issue I have is I've seen them play one game. And I've seen them play a fantastic game. The one area of concern that I had for them was the 3-point line where they gave up 10 threes. And they didn't chase a lot of guys off the 3-point line. But when you're playing Eastern Kentucky, there are a lot of corner threes that team takes. Akron is definitely a little hard to figure out. But from a talent perspective, I just don't see how Western Kentucky doesn't take this team today. Now, we're talking about a very experienced, upperclassman-laden team. And we're talking about talent from high majors. Emmanuel Acott, my fellow Canadian, I'm a little freaking biased because of it. From Winnipeg, Manitoba, came over from Boise State. Jerry's Hamilton from Boston College, Luke Frampton from Davidson, Dante Allen from from Kentucky, Jordan Rawls. He was actually at Western Kentucky first, and then he came back from Georgia State. Davion was recruited there. Christian Lander from Indiana. There you go right there. On paper, Western Kentucky should win this game. But it's an early start. Akron's very good at early starts. And we don't have a lot to go on except for the Eastern Kentucky game as far as film, rotation, and who works well together-wise. Now, for Akron, they looked fantastic in that first game, but the last 2 games, they've really – first off, when you play Mississippi State, I understand when you get fucked in the mouth. It's hard to beat that team, plain and simply. But you were on a neutral court. They didn't have a huge home court advantage, not really that they would at this time of the year to begin with, but you weren't able to do anything. You got blown out. So beating Morgan State, good for you. You did that at home. Now you're going back into a environment that won't be hostile, will probably be pretty stale, new sight lines. I don't like it, especially for the three-point shooting. So this is the game that Western Kentucky gets the three-point shot going. This is the Akron defense to allow them to do it. Akron is no saint at the free throw line, but they do have some nice talent, Castaneda, Enrique Freeman's like an all-MAC player. Trenton Hankerson from a bunch of places. Greg Tribble, these are some guys that last year were producers, and we need them to be producers now. Castaneda has already hit 13 threes, 13 for 30 from the three-point line. Chase him off, and you take away the only perimeter proven scorer right now from this Akron team. I like Western Kentucky in the game. As far as the total, 135 to 133 now. Not touching it. All right. I'll try and speed it up. Okay, East Carolina, Indiana State. Now, East Carolina, very simply, is a team that you fade in the first half, you back at halftime. Offensive rebounding, they crash the glass, all five guys when they're down. Their free throw rate, because they crash the glass and because they know that they could miss that three-point shot, they are going hard to the rim. I love that. They hit a good amount of their free throws. They're decent from all three levels. The only defensive area that they really have to shore up probably is the three-point line, because they've given up double-digit three-point makes in all three games. Against Indiana State at home, I would be all over Indiana State. But on a neutral court, I'm looking at East Carolina. I think both team totals go over. I think that this game goes over, even though the line has gone up 5 points already? That's pretty crazy, but not to be unexpected. Open at 145.5, as high as 151 right now. Listen, with this East Carolina team, it's just and every time. Quinn DeBougie is really starting to come out and being that good perimeter scorer. His numbers are fantastic, and his production's been great when they needed it. Brandon Johnson, Javon Small need to be more consistent, but all these guys get to the free throw line and convert. So I just think that this is the ECU team that I was really wondering about, and I thought that I was like, where are they getting their offense? Now that I've watched multiple of their games, I expect them to get down. I expect them to come back. Not sure if they win this game outright, but Indiana State, they got to score 85 points to win this game. That's how I look at it. Their efficiency inside the arc and outside the arc has been phenomenal, but now they're leaving home. So let's see them do it on the road. Let's see them do it in a neutral court. Let's see it do them in an environment that they don't have the advantage. Kavasi McCauley has been fantastic, 14 for 31 from three already this year. This is a good free throw shooting team. This is a team that hits, obviously, so pretty much every shot that they take inside the arc. And we're talking about a team that's been able to only play Cooper Neese 25 minutes a game. With Julian Larry, with fucking Cam Henry. Who else? Xavier Bledson usually, but he's in a bit of a slump right now. There are just so many weapons on this Indiana State team. They are a darling, and I hope that they continue to be. But this number's too big. If we're talking about Indiana State 5.5 points, then okay, maybe I'm looking at them. But at 9.5, no, I wasn't. Not with how this ECU team plays in the second half. Now for ECU, it's also the same thing there. They haven't been out on the road yet. So it's like, well, can they bring that same energy that they had at home to a comeback that they have to make in a neutral court? Well, we're going to test that theory out today, and we're going to find out. So I like points in that game. It may not be pretty early, but I do think East Carolina finds their way back. So we'll see what happens. All right, now let's talk about a big game. ESPN2. My God. Fucking Creighton versus Texas Tech, baby. Let me tell you something. All right, this is going to be an entertaining basketball game because what is Texas Tech going to have to do? Well, they're going to have to figure out their offense because that has not been clean as of yet this season. You know, I don't give a shit if they win on the spread or they win the game comfortably, if they win it with defense. This team should be able to score 80 plus points. The 3-point line is a big concern. They get to the free throw line a good bit, but can they do that enough versus Creighton? Now, defensively, the defense is there. Like, there's no questioning the quality of Texas Tech's defense. It's always going to be, can they limit turnovers and can they hit from all three levels consistently throughout the game without having major freaking scoring droughts. Now, I'm not impressed with Coach Adams' use of Elijah Fisher. The Crestwood prep product is better than what he's being fucking served right now, and I think that he could be a bigger asset if Pop Isaacs took a fucking seat on the bench and played big with Elijah Fisher, who can also handle the ball. Obviously, his turnovers have been a little fucking problematic, and his rebounding has been fucking non-existent on the offensive end. So that could be a reason why. But I'm a freaking biased towards my fellow Canadians. So I want to see him on the floor. From a personnel perspective, this is a very good Texas Tech late offensive performing team because they stop shooting the three. They go inside. When you got O'Banner, Daniel Bacho, and then Davion Harmon coming over from Oregon, you know, you have three guys that can get to the free throw line and convert and ones from high percentage spots. Now, can Kerwin Walton and Jalen Tyson hit those threes on the wings is going to be the question. So far, they have not proven to be able to do so. But when they put the ball on the floor and take it inside, that's when we've seen them have some more success. I think that this Texas Tech team at this line, it makes me want to take them, but I haven't done so. With Creighton, it's hard to deny how great they are with Nembhard on the floor. Little Nemi has definitely earned my respect. He's ran a very efficient, a very effective, a very secure offense in the half court. And I just love how he fucking goes at the glass. This is a kid that obviously this is a big step up game for them. You know, they've had pretty much cupcakes all the way through. The 3-point shooting has been there. Their 3-point defense has been a little suspect, especially in the game against Holy Cross. Against Texas Tech, that may not be an issue, but they're going to have to defend inside the arc a lot better. I think that this is a major fucking calibration point for them. They can either prove that they are who we think they are, or this could be a work in progress and they need a little more time to get everything fucking going at the same time. Now, I do worry about situations where they're leaving points at the free throw line. We've seen Frederick King play some minutes, but he's also missed a lot of free throws. He's an effective offensive player. I like him as a substitute to Kalkbrenner because you don't lose a lot. You know, if Kalkbrenner needs to sit on the bench because he has foul trouble or anything like that, you got a guy with similar size, a similar skill set, just has some free throw shooting issues. Kaluma, very good player. Love him, but he needs to shore up at the free throw line because he goes there so often. And it's just a tough game to bet. You know, you want to take the dog because it's a coin flip game. You want to take the over because you look at the numbers in the free throw shooting and the high percentage looks and the dunks that guys are getting from this team. You know, it makes sense, but I just can't do it. I'm having trouble. So I lean towards Texas Tech. I lean towards the over. But even with that, the numbers fucking move fucking 5 points. So laying off the total, lean towards Texas Tech. Think it's a real good freaking aptitude test. If Texas Tech has their offense on its highest level today, then they do not lose this game by more than 3 points. All right, Grand Canyon, Wichita State. I'll make this real quick. I do not like this Wichita State team. I'm not really sold on them. It's not because of a recency bias or anything like that. It's just I don't like how this team chooses their shot selection. I don't like their fouling inside the arc, inside the paint specifically. They're putting people on the free throw line when they need to just not reach in. I don't understand this. If you have a hand on the defender, they are going to call a foul. So their situational rebound was against Richmond. That's finito. Now they got to freaking bring that same level of defense into another game, and replicating that level is very difficult for any basketball program at the D1 level to do. I think Grand Canyon definitely comes with a different game plan than they did when they went out on the road and got smoked by Nevada after leading in the first half. I think that Grand Canyon wins this game. I like the point guard play. I like the scoring combo guard. And I like the fact that this Grand Canyon team can D up just as well and just as hard as Wichita State. They can press, they can trap, and they can play full court, just like Wichita State can. I think it's a low-scoring game, but I'm not taking the under in it. And I'm taking Grand Canyon to win. So we'll see if I'm right. The line has definitely moved just a little bit from 2.5 to 1.5. I still think that this is a Grand Canyon win. So Wichita's not going to have home court. They've been very good on neutral courts in the past. If you want to go off of that, I'm not going to. So I'll take Javon Blackshear versus whatever Wichita State's running out of the point guard spot. All right, this is the next game. Cal State Northridge. Okay, yeah, CSUN versus Tennessee State. Now, I've been impressed with Tennessee State. My one concern is free throw shooting. I did come back to haunt them in their game against Southern Illinois, but Southern Illinois was just able to D up on them. Otherwise, I think that they played very well. You're playing a team now that I rank in my 300s and my power rankings, and I just think that when I look at what you get from what you got against Southern Illinois, it's just not what you're going to get again against this CSUN team. Now, CSUN wants to go inside the arc. They do not want to shoot from the three-point line. But from Tennessee State's perspective, they do have some decent size in McCool and David Acosta that you can run out. They don't have a ton of depth, so we can't really have them getting into foul trouble, but you do have good guard defense with guys like Zion Griffin and Dedrick Boyd, who comes off the bench and will give you that help defense and can withstand getting into a little foul trouble. Now, I'll say this, Tennessee State has done a good job of penetrating the paint, getting to the free throw line a ton. When they're getting there an average of like 20 times a game, that's good. That's good news for me, because even if you hit 65 to 70% of those, you're still putting up 14 points, 15 points sometimes on those freaking games. And if you can get that, you still have guys like Junior Clay, who's going to lead you offensively. You still have Marcus Fitzgerald, who's a very good combo shooting guard, although his touch really hasn't been there this year. And then you have Christian Brown, who's coming back from injury, who I think could be really a game changer for Tennessee State. Now, I respect what CSUN can do inside the arc. When I watched and bet on them, their last game against fucking Cal Baptist, I was very impressed, but their shooting is just so bad. It's just so bad. Their defense is average. They're not going to turn their opponent over. They're still going to have a fair share of their own turnovers. They're not getting to the free throw line, even though they're taking all these shots close to the rim. It's just not impressive to me. You're really betting on CSUN in this spot if you think that Tennessee State isn't going to be able to score offensively. I think it's a situational rebound spot for Tennessee State. So I'll roll with that. Okay. Let's talk about Belmont and Howard. Yeah, this is a spot where I don't really have much on. I think that I would lean towards Howard as the dog. They definitely played up to their opponent's level throughout this little MTE. I do worry about tired legs and jump shots not dropping, but with Steven Settle at 6'10", I do think that we are going to see them go inside a fair bit. I would lean towards Howard, especially now at 8 points. I would wait till the line goes as high as it's going and then hit it. I do think that we do see a game that stays under 150. I'm just not willing to take an over right now on the third game in an MTE. So lean towards the under if it gets to 150. And I definitely am going to look to get on Howard, just waiting for the line to get as high as possible. All right. Yes, Nevada and Tulane. Very difficult game. I definitely looked at Nevada very hard. Thought that Nevada had some value just because of how physical that they can play and how good they can be inside the arc when they need to score. Now, their defense is what is the difference to me for this one. The way that they can guard inside and out is very good. We saw the best of it in the Grand Canyon game, and we saw the most recent version of it on the road against UT Arlington. Now, against Tulane, which is a completely different animal, you're really going to need some standout performances. And I think that when you look at what's going on with guys like freaking Daniel Foster and Will Baker, you need a little more. Baker's been very average, I'll say this. I expected a lot more from him so far this year. His expanded range needs to get a little more shots, but the biggest concern offensively is Keenan Blackshear's shot selection and Jared Lucas's overall freaking shot selection. I like this team if they can keep it close because they're very good at the free throw line. And I do like them because they have a lot of size. If they're not running out Will Baker, they can run out KJ Himes, and KJ Himes is capable of having some big games. Now, you do need good wing scoring from Trey Coleman and Darian Williams, and Darian Williams definitely one of the surprises for me as far as Nevada goes. Now, if you can get a similar performance out of him tonight, this afternoon, I do think that Nevada has some value in my eyes. Tulane, I don't think is going to have Jalen Cook. That's a big loss to me for them, and that can make their efforts a little more difficult. Now, this is a very good inside the arc team, and this is a very good free throw shooting team. So if you have to come back on them, it's going to be very difficult. But they played all cupcakes at home, and now they're getting their first test, and they're getting points. Now, I would have had this line closer to freaking 7. But with the respect that they're getting, I still think that Nevada's the spot here. So I'm going against my own line. And without Jalen Cook playing significant minutes, I'm just not really feeling what's going on with this Tulane team. Now, obviously, he played 20-plus minutes against Charleston Southern and was very productive. I just don't know why we're not seeing him play 30-plus minutes. So we'll see what happens today. This could be the absolute wrong move, but I just think that Nevada can take away some of the high-scoring opportunities that Tulane thrives on. They thrive on getting to the rim, and if you can take away some of those rim opportunities with the size that Nevada has with Himes and Baker, it could work out well for them. All right, let's have a look here. So not my favorite game, but definitely a game that could be surprising. All right, Arkansas and Louisville. I'm just going to do a couple more games, and then I'm going to be heading out of here. All right. Arkansas, Louisville. I'll say it plain and simply. Louisville's bad, but I don't know if they're this bad. Now we're getting into a pretty dangerous range as far as points, and I just don't feel comfortable taking either side at this number. I've seen Arkansas struggle with numbers like this, and now we're seeing Louisville at 16. Like, there has to be a point where it's a little too disrespectful, and Louisville's going to come back and freaking cash. I think that this is the game. So I plugged my nose and take Louisville, but I haven't done so yet. And frankly, it's going to take a pretty big losing day to the point that this game starts for me to do so. The value says Louisville, but I've watched that team a bunch. I've watched them lose 2 exhibition games. I've watched them lose on their home floor twice. I just can't do it. So I'll just move on from there. Drexel and UT Arlington. I do not like what I see from UT Arlington. I don't like it from an offensive perspective. I don't like it from a defensive perspective. I don't like it from a ball security perspective. There isn't a perspective that I like this team. Now, they played really well against Oklahoma State, but that was more Oklahoma State playing down to them. They still couldn't shoot the basketball a lick. Their defense is what kept them in it. And against Drexel, I think Pedro Castro is going to have difficulty scoring. I think that guys like freaking Montez Young is not going to see the floor, even though I think that he could be a big asset. This team cannot hit a 3 right now until they prove that they can. They're just unbettable. I don't know what the line is doing. I don't know why we haven't seen Drexel as a 6.5, 7-point favorite, but I thought that 3 or 2.5 was value. I bought down to 2.5, and I'm content betting it. I haven't seen anything from this freaking UT Arlington team that gives me the perspective that they're going to be able to do whatever. I'm sorry. It just isn't there. So even though this Drexel team didn't look good in their game against Penn, they're not going to look good in a lot of games versus certain level of opponents. And that was one of them. They couldn't freaking keep Penn off the free throw line, and that's what really killed them. They couldn't make shots, and they couldn't keep a team off the free throw line. Now, they've had a game to figure it out, but the biggest problem with that game was they didn't have Amari Williams. So they played a fucking non-D1 opponent, beat them by 40, got their confidence back. Their three-point shot wasn't there. They weren't particularly dominant inside the arc. And the only reason why I see this line being 3 right now is that Amari Williams isn't playing today. And I think that if he isn't playing, this is a perfect opportunity to play one of the styles that works very often in college basketball. Your star goes down, and then you freaking rise to the occasion for one of those games. So I'll ride with Drexel. I'm not impressed with UTA, and it's on a neutral court. So I don't think either team is going to have a significant home edge or sightline advantage. All right. Oh, Central Michigan and High Point. Listen, if this was at High Point, I would be all over High Point. But on a neutral court, that's where Central Michigan can be really stymied. They can really play a lot of isolation basketball for Kevin Miller. And I think that High Point gave their best shot against UNLV the other night. Dominant first half, barely hung on second half. A lot of good film on them. There's no denying that they're shooting the basketball fantastic from all 3 levels. They're a good free throw shooting team. They're a good 3-point shooting team. Zach Austin is the guy that you needed to step up with John Michael Wright gone, and he's done a great job in his second year. I'm a big fan of Bryson Childress because at 5'8", he still finds ways to get his shot off, even though he's playing fucking some limited minutes in the first half and second half. This is a group that I think is a very good team at home as a double-digit dog. But as a 4-point favorite on a neutral court versus a Central Michigan team that can D up on them, I'm not so sure. So I'm looking at Central Michigan in this spot. I think Central Michigan will keep High Point off the free throw line. They'll do just enough to chase them off the 3-point line that they don't get burned. And I think that when you look at how they played against Minnesota, how they won at home versus Eastern Illinois, it gives you 2 nice visuals of what this team is capable of doing. Now, they could have won the game against Minnesota. They played really well in the second half and really backdoor covered that game. But they did it with shooting under freaking 25% from the three-point line, not being very good from inside the arc, and not getting to the free throw line a ton. I think that this is a much better matchup for them offensively. I want to see Jesse Zarzuela from the three-point line. I want to see Kevin Miller in the ISO getting to the free throw line and one. And then from the rest of these guys, I don't really know what to expect. I just want to see someone stand up and do something good. There's good size with Harding, Staffel, Pavret. There's no excuse for Central Michigan to not slow this game down, throw it on the low block, run it through Kevin Miller, like kick it out to Zarzuela. Like there's a game script for this Central Michigan team to keep it fucking close. Just got to make sure no one else shoots threes. But I like Central Michigan in the game. As far as the total, I'm afraid to take unders in this game because if High Point is going to win, they are going to put points up. But 151.5 seems a little excessive to me. So I'm not going to roll with it. All right, where are we? All right, this is going to be my last game, and then I'm going to bounce from here. Boston College and Wyoming. I'm not taking Boston College. I'll take Wyoming. Hunter Maldonado and his boys put up a nice fight to try and come back on Drake yesterday. I think that they get the job done today against a much significant weaker, less efficient Boston College team. I'm just not buying. I'm not sipping the Kool-Aid on Boston College. I faded them against Tarleton State. I'm fading them again today. I'm rolling with Wyoming, taking them -2.5. Not a bet yet, but it's a bet that will be made by me. And that's pretty much it, I have to say. I don't have much else to say on it. I think that this Boston College team is a fraud, and I'm just not going to fuck with them. I will say this. Out of the 6 o'clock games or the 6:30 game, the only spots that I'll really talk about is that I'm not taking Florida State. I'm taking Mercer. Florida State, no thank you. They have to beat me before I back them. Western Illinois may not have Trenton Master, but I took Western Illinois anyways. May have to buy off that game once I see starting lineups. South Florida versus UAB. South Florida played up to competition when they played Auburn. I don't expect that to happen against UAB. UAB already has neutral court environment experience, putting up 85 points in a loss versus Toledo. I expect them to dominate. I don't understand why this line isn't 20. I just have no respect for South Florida as a team, as an offense, and being able to score and keep up. So even though UAB doesn't have to live at the three-point line, they have a lot of quickness. They can break down this defense, and I look forward to hopefully seeing that happen on CBS Sports Network tonight. Georgia Tech and Utah, very tough game. I hope that it's an under game, and I hope that Georgia Tech gives Utah the tests that they needed. Two conferences that are just really not very good for power conferences, but with the points in Georgia Tech seems like the more attractive play. So that's about it for me. I covered all the main card games up until 6 o'clock, and I'll try and do something else later, but we got basketball on now, and I got to go watch this shit. Hello, hello, hello. There should be sound because I'm doing a mic test. All right, that's it. I'm getting out of here. Hope that you guys were able to hear, but that's it for me.